The living, the dead, can they coexist? That's what we're here to find out. The living, the dead, can they coexist?
This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Rebel Call, Rebel Call, Rebel Call. I'm sure you're all familiar with Beetlejuice and saying Beetlejuice is named 3 times, which is not by coincidence. I think they would have made it 33 times if they could. But if you haven't heard, they are making another Beetlejuice movie. They are making a sequel to Beetlejuice long after the original Beetlejuice came out. And for those of you that don't know the plot of the newest Beetlejuice, well, it's not going to surprise you. But because it, as most of these MK Ultra films, features a very similar tune, I have to cover it here. Now, usually I go through these trailers and I debunk all the signs and symbols in the trailer along with the plot. But these are very obvious ones that I don't need to waste anybody's time on. We obviously know Tim Burton fills his movies with black and white checkerboard floor, which I'll get into. You could see the cube on the desk of Beetlejuice. What do you think Beetlejuice wears black and white for? See, the trained sheeple out there will say, hey man, he's got a black and white cube on his desk because he wears black and white. But they won't think further as to why Beetlejuice wears black and white stripes. I'm surprised he doesn't wear flat out checkerboard, but I'm sure along the way he'll be wearing it at some point in time. But the theme you heard of this new film is very important to understand. And that is, can the living and the dead coexist? You then see Beetlejuice blow up a hole in the wall and, of course, opens a portal. It sounds a lot like what we hear going on at Cern, which I'll get into in a second. But let's start with Tim Burton. It's very easy to look at these people and feel something in your soul that tells you that these people are wicked. Well, you don't just have to feel it by looking at them directly in their eyes and their photographs. You could feel it and see it in all the symbols and signs they reveal, right? So let's start with Tim Burton. Of course, Tim Burton. Here he is. Peekaboo, it's Tim Burton. You know, this is real original, holding up an eye over his eye. I mean, how much more obvious could it get? But he's an artist. Remember, he makes movies, so he's original, he's creative. We're not. And that's why he uses all the same signs and symbols as everybody else, right? Here's Tim Burton on a magazine cover doing the infamous all-seeing eye symbolism. Okay, you can see Tim Burton's book and Tim Burton's logo that he uses pretty much all the time that has the spiral symbol, which has dual meanings to it. Both, of course, are occult meanings. You see this spiral always used, yet never noticed, right? If you go to someone's home or if you have children of your own, you'll always find spirals on the children's toys. I just talked about this in a recent video. The spiral symbolizes the transformation. It also is a symbol used as code word for certain acts done with children, which you're not allowed to discuss because, of course, those are a protected group of people, unlike people like me and you who are not protected, of course, but we don't need to be protected by YouTube or by this satanic matrix we live in. We're already protected by God, and his will be done. So Tim Burton's logo is the spiral symbol. Even the world of Tim Burton, you could see the black and white Masonic checkerboard floor. He uses the black and white floor in almost every film. It's not just Beetlejuice. Yes, Alice in Wonderland, of course, is one of the films that he does. And you can see the all-seeing eye symbolism right on the cover of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well, where he does the all-seeing eye symbolism. You can see Alice through the looking glass, where he's got Sacha Baron Cohen in Alice through the looking glass, another you-know-what Kabbalistic demon who is promoted out in the open. Of course, when he jokes about his people, that's okay. But when you actually give truth about what they teach, that is considered anti-speech, which you're not allowed to make. So, of course, you saw Johnny Depp. He's pretty much in all of Tim Burton's films. He's one of the most satanic people I've exposed in Hollywood. And let's just move to the cast of Beetlejuice before we get into the plot. Of course, Michael Keaton plays the role of Beetlejuice. Michael Keaton's one of these actors that's reemerged. You may have noticed he was gone for a while. They've brought a lot of these actors back to try to target the older audience who is not falling. The mind control is not working on some of the older audience. They don't like the movies that are being made anymore. They're bringing a lot of these guys back. Michael Keaton's one of them. I know just because you like Michael Keaton in Batman doesn't mean that he's not one of them. He's clearly back because he is one of them. And he shows you this, right? We see him doing the all-seeing eye symbolism right on Entertainment Weekly, on Icon Magazine doing the all-seeing eye symbolism. And of course, it stars Winona Ryder, right? Winona Ryder, who is a witch, who we've seen doing the X symbol across her chest, X for Antichrist. I covered this in a video. If you haven't seen it, It is available here. You could check it out, look for it. You see Stephen King doing the X over his chest. Many of the celebrities do it and nobody thinks anything of it. Robin Williams, of course, some people are trained to think it means something along the lines of jazz hands. They have a lot of things that somehow they get away with in the open. But if you actually look at the repetition and the pattern, like all these pictures of them doing it, you'd say to yourself, these are supposed to be artists. They're supposed to be creative. Why do they keep showing us the same signs and symbols, holding hands over their eyes? Matt Damon with his, making an X across his chest. Marilyn Manson has done it. Okay, they all do it. It is the Antichrist symbol. X, again, with Twitter, is not coincidental. It's done by design. So Winona Ryder, even on magazine covers, doing all-seeing eye symbolism. And then again, you get the connection to Satanist Johnny Depp. So let's get into the plot of the film because it's very important. Okay, you heard them say, can the living and the dead coexist? That's what they're trying to do right now without actually having any concern about the living. Now, if you're familiar with the Fallen One's technology and artificial intelligence and what are going to be used as host bodies for these demonic entities that they're trying to bring forth, well, think no further than technology. What do people think technology is? It's beyond me. When we actually sit and we think, how does this phone work? How does that work? We don't think, right? We just go, oh, it's a phone. It works. That's all we know. It works. It goes on, right? Nobody thinks about the spiritual realm. Nobody thinks about biblical terms, about the prince of the power of the air being Satan. None of these things can be seen, right? But we believe in ghost stories because apparently we're supposed to believe in ghosts, but not demons. We're supposed to believe in aliens, but not demons. Believe and understand that demonic possession is real. It is in the Bible. It's not in the Bible because it's not supposed to be talked about. You just don't hear your churches, your 501c3 churches specifically talking about it. And most of us believe that demons have to do with artificial intelligence and using robotics and AI as a vessel for demonic entities and bringing them over through portals like the things they're doing at Cern. So let's start with just some of the stuff that's out there at the same time, right? Because it's very important with mind control to watch the themes of the movies, the themes of the news, the themes of the stories that are out there. They all relate to each other, right? I was just talking about this with the story of Scarlett Johansson and artificial intelligence. If you didn't watch that video, not many people did. I recommend you watch it. Okay, Scarlett Johansson is trying to go after AI, but she's not really trying to go after AI. They're trying to get legislation for AI, which in turn would make AI acceptable in our society and will pave the way for artificial intelligence rights, which, as crazy as it sounds, trust me, is going to happen. So Forbes has an article out there from a couple weeks ago, Me, My, AI, and I. Workplace tips for coexisting with artificial buddies, right? Coexisting. What was the theme of this trailer, this movie? The theme is that Beetlejuice and Winona Ryder are going to open up a hole, a black hole, right? Where the living and the dead are now going to live in the same realm. Think about that. The physical realm, the spiritual realm. What do they tell us right now? What are they conditioning us with? The physical realm and the digital realm. The digital realm is another term used for the spiritual realm. Okay, you saw Beetlejuice in the trailer in his black and white Masonic outfit. He drew dynamite on the wall and threw a stick of dynamite through it, thus simulating exactly what we see happening at Cern, right? What if Cern could open a black hole? What if they do? What would happen next, right? They talk about energy and they talk about opening a black hole and finding out what's in the universe. And I don't know what the majority of sheeple actually think they're referencing. But what they are referencing, I'll tell you for a fact, is they're referencing the spiritual realm. So when you watch those ghost stories and then you see stuff like Cern and you see the ghost stories, you're like, oh, there's a ghost. And then they get these frequency readers and they're able to read the frequencies and see that there's a ghost present, right? Well, what do you think's going on right now? You got a lot of towers around you. You got a lot of invisible forces being used around you, right? And Cern specifically we should look at because the logo for Cern is 666, is it not? You can clearly see the 3 6s in Cern's logo. In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So let him who has understanding have wisdom. The wisdom is that this stuff is revealed to all of us. Now, you'd be surprised how many Christians I come among out in the open in my day-to-day life. If this stuff ever comes up, which clearly it will because I speak the same way in my day-to-day life around humans that I do on YouTube. I don't live dual lives, okay? This is the same conversation I'm having with everybody out on the internet that I would have with a stranger. And they look at me like I got 10 heads sometimes because I get it. They need to be deprogrammed. But when I mention 666, most Christians think that it's just some type of symbol of Satanists out there. Or Marilyn Manson. They just go, they don't even know that it's biblical, that it's in the Bible, that the mark of the beast. They don't understand it. They don't know it. So it's right in Cern's logo. So now we're talking about Cern, right? We're talking about the plot of Beetlejuice, coexisting the spiritual realm, the living and the dead, bringing over what's on the other side and bringing it here. You know, kind of like Cern shows us in their video Symmetry, which is on Cern's YouTube channel. Okay, does this not look like what I'm talking about here? So how does somebody depict what Cern is doing? What I'm talking about with these movie plots, okay, we can look at Stranger Things, same thing, right? Blasting a hole. You know, they're literally in Stranger Things, they're trying to open a black hole, go into the upside down. What do you think they're talking about, right? It's the same thing here. Oh, now and all of a sudden in Beetlejuice, they want to open up a hole and bring over what's on the other side and have it coexist. Don't forget that coexist logo that people like Bono have been throwing in our faces. It's about more than just coexisting religions. It's about a one world order. It's about a one world religion under the rule of the Antichrist. So in that commercial you saw for Cern, you saw the ritual circle, right? Now, let's connect the dots here when we talk about the living among the dead in Cern and not forget that with all this stuff we see with Cern and things that are, you know, a lot of people don't get, right? With quantum computing and them using this machine, and that people just go, oh, you don't understand, you know, you're not an engineer. And they just go, oh, okay, right? In simplest terms, the internet was born at Cern. I know there's a connection with DARPA, but the internet was born really at Cern. Cern's logo is 666. And what is the internet known for? What do you have to type in? Most of the time, you might not have to do it as much anymore, but you used to always have to type in www before anything, right? And what is www? Oh, it's 666 in Hebrew, right? Just like those symbols you see in the middle that you see on the Monster energy drinks, the 666. So is it a coincidence to anybody out there that the plot of the film literally is talking about coexisting between the two? This is what's going on in the real world. You see how they're able to take these things, put them as plots in movies, and condition people. And then when you tell them that this is real, they automatically go, what, like Beetlejuice, like Stranger Things? Oh, that's insane. And you go, what do you think they're trying to do at CERN? They don't have an answer for you because they just say, well, leave it to the scientists, leave it to the experts. Just like they all left it to the scientists and the experts in 2020 and 2021 when people were willingly poisoning themselves because scientists told them to, right? And we were all warning them. They still go, well, maybe they didn't really know. Maybe they rushed it, right? No, this is all strategically being done. And you're conditioned, and you're also conditioned to not question science, to trust the science. So when CERN tells you they're trying to rip a hole in the universe, you're supposed to just go, oh, that sounds like a good idea, right? Does it? When someone comes over to your house, okay, wherever you live, an apartment, a home, maybe you live with your parents, wherever you are, right? If somebody came into the room you're in right now and they took, let's just say you have a shirt laying out and they ripped a hole in your shirt. Wouldn't you say, what are you doing? Why are you doing that, right? I think 10 out of 10 people listening to this would say that, no matter what their beliefs or political beliefs are. As a human being, why are you ripping my shirt? Well, why are they ripping a hole in the universe? Oh, to find things that we don't understand, right? Because we're so stupid and they're so smart. We're not supposed to understand it, but God made it so that we can understand. This is the spiritual realm that they're trying to mess with. They're trying to bring over what's on the other side. Okay, technology is going to serve as a vessel for these demonic entities. Watch my video on my website on Gordy Rose, where I talk about, I think some parts of it are up over on the Wake Up Call channel. If you're not subscribed, go find it and look for it. Okay, listen to Gordy Rose talk about microchips and talking about quantum computing. And he's even talking about how they're literally demons who could wipe out the human race. And people just go, wait, that's just a chip sitting on a desk. I don't know what's in there, right? I hook it into my phone. It just works. It just works. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know about any of the stuff with the 5G towers and the radiation, even though they're dealing with depression and anxiety and not feeling right all the time. They don't need to know, right? Because they're told not to ask questions about it. And for them, it's like, just continually entertain me with stuff. That's all that they do. They sit around and they want to be entertained instead of educated. So when you start telling them this stuff, their brains can't comprehend it. It's too out of the realm of possibility. Right? Meanwhile, they think we're all nuts. They're literally living in a simulated reality. So do you think it's a coincidence that the plot of the latest Beetlejuice movie is literally talking about coexisting the living and the dead with everything that's going on at Cern? I showed you the symbols. And of course, they called, you think about this, right? I tell people this too. And I probably mentioned it in my videos before, but the mindset, right? Think about this. What do you think? That Tim Burton waited 30 years to make a sequel to Beetlejuice? If you were going to try to make money, and that's what Hollywood was about, would you not have made a Beetlejuice a few years later, 5 years later, 10 years later at the most, and cashed in? What, all of a sudden, everybody's been screaming for a Beetlejuice sequel? I mean, fine, maybe a couple weird people were asking for a Beetlejuice sequel, because they have nothing better to do. But nobody was asking for one 30 years later. Were people, after Casablanca came out, whatever era that was, the 40s, 30s, 50s, whatever, were people waiting for a sequel 30 years later? Of course not. They had already moved on to different genres, and the people would just watch the old movie who liked the old movie. They wouldn't even need a sequel. They bring it out because it's a conditioning mechanism. All these people, they know what audience is going to go see Beetlejuice, and they know that that audience is going to bring their kids. And what's the median age of their kid? Based on the median age of the people who saw it. These are things that they do. So they call Tim Burton and they say, Tim, we're going to have you make another Beetlejuice. You don't think Tim would go, I don't want to make another Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice was fine by itself. Why make a sequel to Beetlejuice? I don't want to embarrass it. I liked it. Yeah. No, that's how you would think stuff would work. That's how it would work in a real world if all this stuff they tell us is real is real. It's not. They said, Tim, your Masonic Brotherhood here, your fraternal order is calling on you to make another Beetlejuice, and we want you to put this same plot in there that they're using in Stranger Things and everything else. No one will notice because they don't pay attention. They're just excited to see Beetlejuice, so we're going to program them again. We're going to desensitize them again to coexisting, to bringing over what's on the other side, which is what they're doing. Little by little by little. AI writes the next thing, right? Demonic forces, aliens, UFOs, conditioning. This is all done by design. Tim Burton didn't wake up and say he wanted to make a new one. Michael Keaton didn't just show back up to just suddenly make Beetlejuice. They told him, you're coming back. You're coming back. We're doing this. This is why. When they get ordered to do something, there is no questioning it. It's the brotherhood over all else. Their oath and loyalty is to the brotherhood. And the overall theme and the overall message of the brotherhood is to get this pushed across, this Luciferian doctrine, to normalize these things that they're doing with bringing over things from the other side that we can't comprehend while showing us. I mean, the Coexist logo, they literally have the pentagram in it. It's unbelievable, right? Bono pretending to be a Christian, even though he's a Jesuit. You have him out in the open with the Coexist, right? What are the things in there? Oh, the peace sign used in a satanic baptism. That star that we're told is the Star of David. Yeah, used to enslave the earth. The synagogue of Satan's symbol, right? The eye has the pentagram in it. The yin yang, another satanic symbol, right? And then, of course, the T used for the cross to deceive Christians with, to bring in the coexistent movement with the communist star and Baphomet's, crescent moon. I mean, it's all right in front of our faces. You just have to look. It's just as simple as that, right? I show you the plot and I tell you what they're saying they're doing at CERN. Does it not sound similar? Is CERN's logo not 666? Is Cern not responsible for the internet? They claim to be. The birth of the web, it says right on their website, right? And why is it that www and everything that they do is usually lined up with these people who's supposedly Hebrew? We're not talking about the Old Testament. We're not talking about the Old Testament here when we talk about Hebrew, okay? We're talking about Babylonian text. But anyway, they got the 666 and the www are one and the same, right? So we have spirits being brought over, the living with among the dead living among the living, right? And then what is going to be the catalyst? How is that possible? How can these spirits that God put behind a veil, that these people are trying to summon and bring forth, that they do during rituals, what are they going to live inside of? Well, there's your answer. Artificial intelligence. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.